And also, it's really good just to have this interview with you this evening, just to find out more about your background, and, just for us to maybe just see what it's like, to build resilience in your life and through your life stages and experience. So I'm really looking forward to just, asking you a few questions so that we can learn, from your valuable experiences and, just what you would choose to share with us, this evening. So thank you so much for taking this time out. Yes, I'm very grateful for that. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions about one of the things that I'm quite curious about is your background. If you could tell us about your background and how you came to Germany and how it all
Hmm.
all happened here. Right. I'll leave it to you.
Yes, I'm very happy to be with you here. Um, yes, I will try to have my best English today. And yes, so I don't know how long and how wide I should talk about it. I'm just short version. I was born in Peru in Lima, and my mother is Peruvian, and my father is American from East Coast, close to Boston. And he moved to South America when he was 19. And then we all moved from Lima, Peru to Chile. That's where I grew up. And then when I was 18, about or 16, I decided that I was looking for a teacher for my violin studies. I'm a violinist, and I was looking for a teacher in the States or somewhere else. And then I remembered this fantastic violinist that I heard once, and I found him in Berlin. And I didn't get to study with him, but I found another great teacher. And that's the reason I actually came to Berlin, because I heard them in Chile. So then I came to Berlin, and I've been here since 96 in Berlin, since almost like 28 years now. Exactly. Yes. And this is how I came to Germany, at least. Yeah.
Wow, that is really something to, to hear. It's quite fascinating. And I know that the wall in Berlin came down in 1889. So you came after that whole big change, right? That happened,
Yeah.
which was a
Yes.
very tectonic event that happened in people's lives, and it really shifted their experiences and perspectives on how they were going to, move forward in their lives. And yeah, so
Very.
just thinking about your life at the moment, through the different stages in, your life, you have two great kids, and, you're married to a native German. And what was that experience like for you, just, being in a different culture, marriage, and, how was that, you know, helping you to have an open mind and, to build resilience through those different stages?
Mm, yeah. That's interesting that you mentioned the wall, because um, in Chile we had a big break, 89 also. It was returned, or the end of dictatorship, and the wall came down. And this is the same year. So my husband was behind the wall in East Berlin, and I was in Chile and this dictatorship. So we had both, even if we are in totally different continents, we had a somewhere similar backgrounds in some ways, like experiencing things like that unconsciously as child. Of course, as kids, we don't really understand everything. And he's 2 years older, so he was a little bit more mature than I was when all this happened. But I was here actually 87, the first time I came to play in a festival when I was 10 years old in Berlin. And actually, the most amazing thing happened that I live around the corner where this festival took place back then. And this big building that now I'm rehearsing with my orchestra. It's amazing how the world and how everything is so small. But and then that I actually got to meet my husband here, and that the wall had to come down for us to meet. Yeah.
That is
So that's
unbelievable. I love that
tectonic. Yes, I
story.
would say
I
that's
love that story because it's actually something that is, I mean, these situations can bring two people together and, from two different worlds, from two different cultures. I mean, that is just a very, very special thing to have to, go through, and also to grow in as well, and,
yes,
to
yes.
develop, your own identity through that. What an interesting process that was, and a special situation. So, were some areas in your life that stood out for you, where you found yourself in the thicket of life? I think we all experience the thicket of life, whether it's at work, whether we have family challenges, or just general, trying to work through each transition, through marriage, through, maybe
Mm.
getting through, middle age. And there's just so many decisions that we have to make, and we don't always know what's the right decision. So, how would you say you best managed, some of the challenges in, your life? How did you get through them and persevere?
Yeah. Yes. So let me think of one. I actually thought of one, and it's gone. But definitely moving in that age, early age, to another culture, another language, without my parents. And I was just out of school in a country where kids were kept kids a long time. So I was also not only kind of protective because, eh, kids don't go out around by themselves so much like in Germany. It's different. Um, so I was just sent out to the open world, and I wanted it. And what it helped me. I mean, it was very hard to miss my family, and to get over that. It's interesting, but God gave me another family here. So I found that very quickly. I found myself finding I was looking for a church and finding a community where I truly felt that I can be myself. That was very important, where I could be the better me somehow as well, to wish for, also growing together but without our masks on. So that was very special, and having that companionship and having others, so that you can actually face those moments together when still you miss your family, you're young. But God give me that amazing tool that is social interactions. Yeah. I mean, that being as one of the tough times is the beginning of my life here. Then going through the studies, then you know, finding uh my partner for life, getting married, having kids, finding an amazing job. I have the job that I love, um, and yes, I feel very blessed with my husband, with our relationship, um, and that he went through at a time of cancer treatment, and that was maybe the hardest time. So that because I was just pregnant with a 5-month-old uh, baby in the oven, so 5 months in the pregnancy, and then we got the diagnosis, and it was all kinds of one at once. So that was a moment when I think my resilience, or this was actually put to a test, like when you have a rubber and you got to stand it and see when does it break. And I really felt the stretching there, not in the moment. In the moment, I felt like Samsung kind of keeping the walls in place or something. I did not think about it in the moment too much, but it came afterwards, bit by bit, and feeling like, oh, you have been stretched, and you have been, you know, load has been put on you. And so, what helped me to go through that time? I think staying staying flexible, and um, having social interactions, and having a compass of right and wrong, maybe kind of white and black, but something that you can follow, that you can guide your life from, what you want to follow as a goal. um, Having God in my life is essential to that. But even then, sometimes we feel like, where is God, and what's going on? And so feeling this kind of pull, and you think, oh, this is too much. How can you do? And in those moments, asking for help, for support, for the easiest things, to just have people in your life, rather than, oh, I have to get through this quickly. It's going to pass. No, no, I don't need help. No, you need the help. You need to be with others. So that has been two of the most important elements, to react to what's happening. Like when somebody throws a ball to you, you just don't go like this, because it's just going to jump back and you're not going to have the ball, and you cannot throw it back. You have to stop what you're doing and hold it down again, and then you kind of go hold it down, push it back, and throw it back. And this flexibility, this action, and this flow of what's happening, oh, react to it in the moment, be aware of what's happening as possible. Also, not getting stuck, because I tend to be a little bit perfectionist about certain things, and not everything, but some areas. And it's very important for me to learn and have somebody to tell me when it's enough and let go. Something is fine like that, you know, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and doesn't have to be planned to the detail or something, because that's something I learned here. I didn't learn that with my parents. I learned to be flexible with my parents. They were flexible. They were instant. They were how do you say, spontaneous. They could move, they could go anywhere. Sure, let's go to the beach. Where are we staying? We don't know, we'll find something. And that's something you don't experience here very much in Germany, you know. So everything is planned, you know where you're going to go, and you know it's going to be planned and everything. And I'm very thankful for my parents being like that. And that I think that gives me a lot of security. So that's definitely one of the major things that I have come to learn. So be flexible, be spontaneous, or be able to change the, you know, perspective when you're seeing everything in one perspective and you kind of get stuck, to actually go back, like when somebody's painting something and you're in the detail, and then you're like this, and you can put back, oh, okay, yeah, correction, I don't know, and then you can correct the course. And with music, it's pretty much the same. You're learning a piece and you get stuck with the piece, and you have to let go before you have another perspective again. And this letting go also, you know, helps us to not get and break, you know. So that's for me at least how what's helped me the most. And to ask for help, even in moments when I thought, oh, I can do it myself, or I shouldn't bother anybody. That's my tendency, definitely. I'd like to help people, but I don't want to bother anybody with my stuff, you know. And I learned a lesson about that. Yeah.
This is wonderful to hear all this, because I know that, my
Mhm.
next questions was, what do you think of the word resilience? But you've just said, that,
Oh,
you need to be flexible, and you also need to get help. And I think those are such valuable tools, because
yeah.
usually in this day and age, the pressure can get so much for people that they pull back and they just try to
Mm.
do other things and distract, try to forget about the problems, because maybe they
Yes.
can't face their pain. So they find
Mm.
ways where they can just, escape. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
really like what you said, Elsa, because it's such a key. So many people here could actually learn that, just from your valuable life experience, that, when there's pressure and hardships, that there is a way out, but we just need to bear with it and be flexible and ask for help. And I find so much comfort in that, because
Mm.
in my own life, I've lost my dad, and it was quite
Mm.
a traumatic time for me last year. It's almost a year now that he's gone, and
Yeah.
he was like a kindred spirit to me. So I think, having to face that grief in those stages, it's something that I've had to face. But I've
Mm.
also been honest with people. I've said, look, I need space or time, but I am going to deal with this, and I'm going to get the help that I need. And that's
Mm.
exactly what I've been doing. And I think once you open to the help, and you're open to learning through that experience, whatever God is teaching you, then you really do grow. And I can see that so much
Mm.
in your own life. It's so inspiring to see how much you've come from a different country, different cultures,
Mm.
different mindsets. Your parents are very flexible, spontaneous,
Mm.
similar to the South African culture too. And that's
Mm.
something for
Yeah.
myself, being in Germany, I've really had to adjust and just be flexible, and really learn to just understand where the people are coming from and adjust accordingly. But I think it's
Mm.
wonderful that we are both married to our
Yeah.
own native, country, because if we open to that, I think it's really a blessing in disguise for us. It's
Absolutely.
like a
Mm.
jewel, isn't it? It's like a treasure.
Yes,
If we and
absolutely. We are
yeah, it's
enriching each other. Yes.
and sometimes
Yeah.
people feel afraid of change, or something that's totally different. But I think if you just let yourself open up slowly to something different and just say, I can do this, I believe in myself,
Mm.
all things are possible, you know, and just your experiences just made it so clear tonight, which I'm very grateful
Mm.
for. So
Yeah.
I know that with the macro area of life, you know, and circumstances and situations we face that have an effect on where we may live, like work and relationships that we get involved in. That could be countries that we've moved to, and even with
Mhm.
COVID, you know, those
Oh
influences
yeah.
we
Mm.
couldn't control. And that had an effect on how we responded to certain things, what, you know, decisions we had to make at those moments. That was quite a big
Yeah.
thing. How do you think that also impacted your, you know, the way you responded to those macro situations in your life that was out of your control? How do you think your
Yeah.
micro, you know, aspects, which is your belief and your values,
Mm.
how did that
Yeah.
help you deal with the things that you couldn't control? What do you think helped you out?
That's something that was harder for me than for my husband, even if he was the one having the cancer. And the chemotherapy ended right before the lockdown, like the week before. And he was at his lowest with his immune system. And there we were, everything was locked down, and the place that he was going to have his rehabilitation was locked. I brought him there, and then he called me back. I have to go back home. I can't, but I'm going to take a taxi. I said, you take a taxi. Please don't go in the train, because he's a little bit like, yeah, he would take the train probably. And I said, please don't. And so he has, I don't know how to explain this, but he had the amazing capability of being peaceful through this whole time with a complete trust that everything was going to be fine. And I didn't feel that way at all. And so it was very strange sometimes, because I felt like everybody's asking me things. The babies, the kids want things from me. He's tired. He wants things from me. I need to cook. I need to go out. I need to get him out of the house. I need to, come on, God, let's go for a walk and encourage everybody. And sometimes I thought like, ooh, you know, and this time even I started working quite soon, because the Stephen was a year and a half, and I went back to 50%. I went cut down on work. Um, Not only because of COVID, but the kindergarten wouldn't take the kids back that didn't have a relevant job. So I until they learned that I was playing in the radio every time the concerts were going live on radio, then they told me, we're just going to write radio, you're working in the radio, this is relevant. And then that's how they made, I had daycare again, and that changed, and I didn't have any control. But sometimes just sharing with others opens you to another possibility. If I would just said like there's not another chance, and I don't talk about it with anybody, they wouldn't have suggested any change. So then it was possible for me to go back and work, and yes, like rehearse and play concerts. We even dressed up for our concerts, even if nobody was in the audience, because it made us feel better or more festive or something. But it was very challenging as musicians to not have an audience to play for. To actually kind of think that we are totally irrelevant for this society. So we started putting videos up on YouTube. We started going out in the streets playing. We made different projects, and not to lose hope. And this is something else I'd like to share about being resilient, about being, standing with the against the wind and holding your position. Also, there's also strength to it, but there's also this I don't know how you call it. Sorry. Um, I think that you also have to be somehow optimistic about things, and have like ideas. And that's not something that is hard for me, luckily. I have a mind that has a lot of ideas. I kind of have a trouble catching up and being not impulsive about them. So but I have ideas, and I'm optimistic, and I feel that it's definitely a talent and something God's just given to me. And to be oriented on the solution of things and keep the optimism. Even if a lot of people thought we were gonna end, our job was ended, never again. People would like to go to concerts and be in crowds and stuff like that. And I thought like, no, guys, we're not going to live without music. That just doesn't work. It's the soul. It's the feeding the soul. Even in the Bible and David, it was so special. He has a musician, hundreds of them trained to be playing specific kinds of music and instruments. This is something belongs to the very basic expression of humankind. So I didn't feel too threatened, and it kept a little bit the hopes up. But it wasn't easy to feel like you're not a doctor, you're not a, firefighter, you're not absolutely essential for the system. And we tried to, as an orchestra, we tried to have our logo, Berlin Needs Music. And we went out with our masks that said Berlin Needs Music. And we had this whole action. And it was very cool to be in the same boat together. And that was very nice for the orchestra. It brought us together, and it brought a lot of trouble and problems that got solved. And now here we are, how many years later? 3 years later, 4 years later, and we have new audience. We have all these new people coming to concerts that we don't know where they come from, but there they are, and they're happy. We have full halls, and we're very thankful and very happy that this has turned around. And that's something when you think it's worth it, to stay optimistic about something. Realistic, we have to stay realistic and see what is possible, and not to fight the stuff that is impossible without fighting the possible things. Yeah.
Oh, thanks also for this. It's really, really helpful. I think I love music because I think music is always so uplifting to anybody's soul. And I think even
Mm,
about when little kids go and sing to old age
yes.
home, to older people in
Yes.
the old age home, it's just there's something about music that is reviving. And I was just
Mm,
listening to what you're saying about being optimistic and
mm,
hopeful. But I know that there's a lot of depression in our world. People get depressed. And I often think to
yes.
myself, isn't there a way to have avoided that in the early stages? If they had just recognized it earlier, maybe they wouldn't have gone into such a deep clinical depression. Although there are some complicated cases that doctors and obviously medical professionals will be able to deal with. But just in general, if
Mm,
you think about just the micro part of you, your beliefs and your
yes.
values, like how
Mm,
would that ground you so that you can keep that consistent hope through difficult times when there's unpredicted things that could happen, or challenges or suffering?
mm.
How does one actually keep that going? Because I know my dad was very optimistic. He was a very optimistic person, but then at the end, unfortunately, things turned around. The
Mm.
tables turned around.
Yes, yeah, you
And
told
it
me. Yeah,
just
yeah.
makes me wonder as a person, how we could avoid this happening, because obviously there is medicine to
Mm.
help these people, but there must be ways. And I'm listening to your experience, and it's just really bringing out many things,
Uh,
questions in me as
I
well.
think I have an answer to that. My answer to that, for whatever that was for me, when I have felt like for example, when I wasn't finding somebody to share my life with, and I had been waiting for a long time, and my family was like, "Why are you still there? You haven't found somebody? Then come back, please come back." And then my brother said, like, "I give you 4 years. If you don't find somebody in 4 years, you're coming back." And then I actually start praying for that, and to put it out there, this and this is what I want in my partner. I really wish for this and that, specific things, very specific, and to pray to God really that I really would like to have that, and maybe He will grant it or give it to me, maybe not. I'm losing my thought here, but the thing is that yes, I think, yeah, being optimistic and being positive is one thing, but the other thing is just, when you're like trying not to get depressed and trying not to get depressed, sometimes we have to go through the pain of things. And nowadays in our society it goes so fast, and everything has to be working on. And then you're a mother, and you constantly find yourself, the kids cannot see you cry, the kids cannot hear the kid, and you want to protect them, yes, but also you need to find the times and the ways that you get to work through this with a friend, with your husband, with whoever is close to you, praying and giving it up to God. There, as a very important point for me, is when we pray, that we pray not only what we're feeling, because God knows that already, but that we actually pray how we want to be and how we want to feel, and how we like to be not depressed. So what I very often do is just really pray for what I want to have in the way that is almost like this is how it is, and almost like in the future with faith, like Daniel's example, and really like it's happening already, and trying to imagine and put it in words and repeat it instead of repeating. And sometimes we find ourselves saying the negative things and all the bad things that are happening, and we hear ourselves, and there it goes again, a negative circle. So I thought something has to change about this. And then there is the inner thought, inner talk or something, but talking even with others, and that always tell your whole bad, but oh, I wish this, I could do this and that. What do you think? How could it change it? What do you think? What do you do? And get some input, and ask for input, not wait for people to have kind of tell you things, but actually ask for advice and be humble about certain things. I mean, I feel that this and this, I'm a little bit negative about this, with my weight, for example. It's something I fight since I'm 16. It just went up and I've never went back down. And I've tried so many things. And I remember every year I would say like, yes, this year is the year. And it wasn't, but other things got more important and more important. And it's something that I learned to see. I'm not reducing myself to just having to lose weight. I need to just also be all the other things I am, and specifically holding and seeing all the good things that I have besides that, cannot focus on my defect only, and then I thought like, it's people still like me for some reason. It can't be that bad. And then I thought like, yeah, no, you work on stage, you can't be overweight, and so I've learned to let that go. And I hope that this also accepting who I am, how I am, it's going to help me to actually move on. I hope. Yeah.
Well,
I
also,
started
it's
working out more.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to hear your goals. And also, one of the things that I heard that came out to me was gratitude, that it's important to really be grateful for what you have, and just where you've come in life, and how far you've come because of God. But also that you can accept yourself for who you are, and not giving into that self negative talk, because it's like a spiral that just kind of
Oh,
like
yes.
grabs
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And that, I think,
Yeah.
is a way where when people do, that's one indication of getting depressed, because it's not dealt with over
Yeah.
the years. People bottle it up,
Yeah.
and they just pretend nothing happened, and they're trying to put everything on their shoulders, and they're not asking for help. So I think all these things that you've shared, tonight, has just been so valuable. And yeah, I think those are definitely the key elements that I got out of our talk tonight. And yeah, because actually my last question was like, how would you, was there something you wanted to share with others, to build up your resilience, and, to avoid the falling into the trap of self negative talk and giving up. But it's exactly
Self-negative.
what you were saying, just having hope and being grateful and just accepting yourself, but also asking
Yeah.
for help. And not, when we have
Yes.
children,
Yes.
I know it's very easy not to look upset. But I think even for me, since I've lost my dad, my kids know when I'm feeling upset about it. And actually, it's interesting how my youngest son actually draws pictures of me and, my dad together, his grandpa. It's a way of
Wow.
comfort. So sometimes when we really share or we're vulnerable with the young people in our life, like our children, they have a way of just helping us bounce back, because
Absolutely.
it's their simple minds and their own resilience
Yes.
is just amazing.
Yes.
It's contagious. So I'm very
Yes.
encouraged by what you've shared. And is there anything else you would
So
like to share
yeah, I
before
would
we
love to
end?
share just this one last thought that I thought like, how do we get it? And because we have kids and we're raising kids, how do we help them to be resilient? And um, I think the most important thing, just like God is, He lets us do mistakes, and take risks. And sometimes we parents don't want that because we don't want to deal with the consequences of that eventually. If they break an arm, if they fall, or whatever, and then I thought like, yeah, we need to let them make mistakes. So I learned a lot through making mistakes. My parents were not in top of me all the time about things or how I did things, how I played something, how I didn't play something. But I very often went to them and asked like, should I play like this or like this? How you like it better? And cooking, for example, is a small way to start to try and make a mess in the kitchen with the kids always, just make a mess sometimes, and they learn from those and they recover from those. When something is like complicated and we are all up, it has to work out, and then it maybe just will not work out, and we're just going to do the best we can anyway. And that is the best thing we can teach our kids, I think, for them to be strong and resistant to different challenges that will come their way in the future. Yeah.
I love that, because I think even as a teacher, we need to try and encourage having a
Oh,
growth
yes.
mindset instead of a fixed
Yeah.
mindset. Like, we need to
Yes.
embrace
Yes.
failures and keep
Right.
learning. What a great
Mm.
reminder. This has been such a
Yeah.
wonderful session this evening with you. And I'm sure there's a lot of takeaways that so many people can get out of this talk. And it's just been absolutely amazing and meaningful. And I
Mm.
really appreciate your time tonight. And
Mm.
yeah, there's
No,
nothing
thank you for
else.
your time. Yes,
If there's
thank you for
anything
the
else.
wonderful questions and the thoughts, and thinking of me to participate. And yeah, thank
Yeah,
you very much.
yeah. Thanks.